What's up guys, it's Manga time once again. I'm here to bring you my review of Bleach 668, Bigger, Faster, Stronger. If that's not a Daft Punk reference, I don't know what is. Apologies for this review being late, but once again, my Thursday was not suited to do a review on, so I'm trying to do this Friday morning. But I don't think it'll be a particularly long review, as this is, again, a pretty simple chapter, as most Kenpachi fight chapters are. Although this one is something of legend. I was going to say if you've been reading Bleach for as long as I have, but even if you haven't, the idea of Kenpachi ZARAKI getting a Bankai was always kind of a myth. I mean, to be fair, even like him getting a Shikai, it was always like that. There was always like the memes on the internet that were like, if Kenpachi got Bankai, the whole world would explode. Well, now it's actually happening, and it's kind of weird, but I will talk more about that at the end, because that's when it comes up. Anyway, it starts off with Kenpachi being affected by the ability of Hoffnung, where he gets slashed after attacking it. And he tries to stabilize himself as the blood's kind of like flying out of him. He's like, what the hell's going on here? And Gerard's like, is something the matter? And Gerard kind of devolves into typical villain territory in this fight, but he does sort of retain some of his personality. Gerard's like, miracle is my power, It's an ability which gives form to the very thoughts, feelings, and desires of the masses. So we're kind of getting an official description of his power, but it's a little bit of a confusing one. But I think basically you have to, when taking Gerard's power into account, just imagine that there is like a group of people watching the fight. Okay, and they want Gerard to win. So it's similar in a way to the Superstar, except he doesn't actually need anyone there. Basically, so imagine there's loads of people watching, and Gerard's body was destroyed. Okay, they get scared that his body has been destroyed, and so, as a miracle, his body returns, but like 10 times larger. Again, it's the same with Hoffnung. The sword is all about the hope of the masses. He fights with that sword, and it carries the hope of this group of people. If it were to break, these people would be like, oh shit, we can't win. He can't win. So because of that, it's a miracle that his sword not only doesn't break, but it also deflects back at the enemy. That's basically what I think is the gist of his power. It's a little bit confusing. Anyway, Hitsugaya is like, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, but it seems like your power reason does not apply to it. Basically setting up a Kenpachi fight. Anyway, Kenpachi, this is an interesting line. Kenpachi's like, oh well, if I can't shatter your sword, I'll have to kill you. You're something like a bad villain cliche, talking us through all your plans. What's next? You're going to demonstrate your powers. You'll live to regret it. This is a very meta thing to say. It's like Kubo has become self-aware of his own problems. As we all know, that Kubo is very guilty of the whole villain trope where they just sit there and talk about their powers. But I feel like Kenpachi's a weird person to point out. But at the same time, Gerard is a weird villain to talk about it too, because Gerard kind of explained his powers, but I don't see how Gerard's powers necessarily explaining them would fuck him over, because Gerard's powers don't seem to have a weakness. Unless Kenpachi exploits one later that I haven't realised, but yeah, it's interesting to see Kenpachi make such a meta comment, but I'm not sure it really suited him. Like, Askin was very meta, but I do wonder if Kubo, now that he's seemingly aware of this, will he stop doing it? Probably not. Or the next fight at Hashworth will probably explain everything he does anyway. But Gerard's like, I'm not being naive. What's naive is the fact that you can't comprehend the difference between our powers. The regret will not be on my end. And Hitsugaya like, oh, these two are a match made in hell. I just don't give a shit about Hitsugaya. The title page is freaking amazingly cool. I'm not going to lie, it's amazingly cool. Very, very Yami-esque from the Yami fight, but it's still really cool. It's basically Kenpachi just standing there with no Zarashi, and his Shakusho is completely ripped up, and Gerard is coming in for an attack. and it just looks really well done. It's really well drawn. This fight is, as with most Kenpachi fights, to be fair, even though Kenpachi I find to be a bit boring, there's one thing you can count on, it's good action. And there's no difference here. Gerard tries to ram his sword into the ground, and as he does, Kenpachi jumps up the blade, then bounces off Gerard's fingers and tries to cut Gerard in the face. Gerard dodges backwards, however, and then punches Kenpachi into a wall with his free arm. It's a nice little back and forth. It's pretty cool. Kenpachi jumps out of the building. He's like, well, look at that. You managed to dodge me. You're faster than you look. And Gerard's like, yeah, well, I tried to crush you in one hit. You're slippery too. Hitsugaya then tries to join in the fight like the little bitch he is, and he's like Guncho Surara, which is the move where he fires off loads of bullets, which he used on Haribel. And Gerard's like, you bore me. That's a fourth wall break right there, I reckon. And he's like, you are not my opponent. And this was actually possibly... This was the bit of the chapter that made me go, holy shit, rather than even the ending. Kenpachi jumps in and he smacks Hitsugaya, and Hitsugaya is flying. Now, I know Kenpachi's all like, don't interfere in my battle, but I wonder if he did it to save Hitsugaya's life, because Gerard was literally about to flatten Hitsugaya. But either way, he smacks Hitsugaya, and Hitsugaya's like, what the hell is your problem? And ZARAKI basically says, you know, just stay out of the fight. It's very typical ZARAKI. It's interesting, though, to see him actually make good on such a promise, because we've seen him loads of times, like to Ikaku and Yumichika, be like, if you get in my way, I'll cut you down first. So it's interesting to see him finally actually do it, and it's very interesting interaction between captains. Like, that's really cool. Hitsugaya is obviously not very happy about this, but Byakuya steps in and he's like, you know, don't bother. It's pointless. If we're talking about opponents where reason doesn't apply, then ZARAKI is their poster child. And Hitsugaya says, I can't just abandon ZARAKI and go on without him. This is an opponent that ZARAKI will not be able to defeat by himself. Because if you needed proof of that, just look, he's already taken off his eye patch. So that's cool. Kubu did actually mean to do that, like I thought he did. A lot of people said last week that it might have been an art error. But no, he did actually mean to take off his eye patch. So Kenpachi is currently fighting at full strength, although if this page didn't tell you that he had something else up his sleeve, then I don't know what. Hitsugaya is like, you know, with every last fibre of his instincts, is all but realised that he can't bring someone down. He can't bring this guy down without his eye patch. And Byakuya, I like this moment of little bit of introspection as Byakuya is looking at Hitsugaya and he's like, you know, the ice petals are disappearing. It's only natural that everyone is reaching exhaustion, even though I don't think Byakuya has really done much, so that's a bit weird. But so it appears that every last one of us is short on time. I just want to say that I think Byakuya is definitely using Bankai, because he wields Senbonzakura with his hand. So can I just say that this is further proof that Kubo did not want Byakuya to survive the fight with Aznot. Because he has done absolutely nothing since surviving. There's been no big, like, new Bankai reveal from his time in the Royal Realm. Absolutely nothing. He's not even going to get a proper fight at this rate. It looks like this fight is going to be mostly a Kenpachi fight, which is disappointing. But yeah, Byakuya has literally done absolutely nothing, so Kubo had no plans for him to survive whatsoever. You'd probably find Byakuya would have been like replaced with Shinji or something like that if he wasn't actually here. But yeah, he just sort of standing there now. Byakuya's just sort of been there now since he survived, so a bit of a shame, really. Anyway, Hitsugaya has a plan, and he says he wants to freeze Gerard right down to the bone. When he gets an opening, and when that happens, he wants Byakuya to smash into pieces with Senbonzakura. So he says, please help me with this, and Byakuya says, yeah, sure. So Gerard smacks Kenpachi away, and Kenpachi's struggling now. He's got a big cut in his side as well. And Gerard's like, you know, what's wrong? The power behind your blade is starting to wane. But Gerard says, you know, well, you know, it can't be helped, because in a fight between us, it's impossible to let swords not get nicked, and we see that Hoffendong's been nicked a couple of times, so Kenpachi's taken some damage. And Gerard says, I'll carve that despair into your body. So he sends Kenpachi flying again. Kenpachi jumps towards him, and this is when Gerard's personality starts to return. He's like, you know, what tenacity, such amazing spirit. You know, he's kind of praising Kenpachi, but he says, spirit alone cannot bridge the gap between our strength. And I think Kenpachi gets hit again. Honestly, that's like one of the weirdest panels ever. You just can't really see it. I think he's getting punched, but I can't really tell. As this happens, however, a big blanket of Senbonzakura appears above Gerard. It's quite an interesting use for Senbonzakura. It does appear to be trying to cloak him. Bit weird. Pretty sure Hitsugaya's plan was to do ice first, then Senbonzakura, but whatever. Gerard breaks out of the Senbonzaku and he's like, I see through your ploy, Kuchikibuyakia. And then his eye seems to like look downwards. I don't know if that's an art error or not. I'd be surprised because Kubo still kept the same design for his eye, but maybe they can move, I don't know. Then he says, and you as well, Hitsugaya Toshiro, and he smashes the building that Hitsugaya is on. Again, like, I'm pretty sure Hitsugaya wanted to do ice first, but anyway, he says, I've seen, this is when Gerard starts to devolve again into kind of typical villain. He's like, I've seen through it all, you two had hatched the scheme and were plotting, waiting for me to show you an opening. And I really think this next panel is just so dumb. It's so dumb. Like, can you, like, imagine just being in a fight with this guy and he's just suddenly like, I'm the best Quincy ever. It's a bit weird, but he's like, I'm the greatest, fastest, mightiest of the Quincy. I'm the warrior who's bestowed with everything. I don't know if that's true or not. We'll have to see. It is interesting, actually, however. I've actually literally only just noticed this. Obviously, Gerard's right arm is now massive because he got slashed. But his body appears to have... Like, I don't know about you, but I think the right arm is the arm that looks like the right proportions. Because his hand behind his shield is absolutely tiny. That doesn't look right to me. His right arm is the one that looks correct. But I don't know. What do you think? It's interesting. I've only just noticed that his right hand behind his shield is really small. Because obviously his left hand, sorry. Because his right arm was obviously supposed to be massive. So, yeah, that's weird. Because his right hand follows on nicely from the rest of his arm. So, I don't know. Anyway, he says, you'll never be able to pull one over on me. Then we get to the big bit at the end of the chapter. Kenpachi's lying beaten on the floor, and he hears a voice saying, what are you doing? And I thought we were going to turn the page and see Nozarashi's Zanpakuto spirit, and it turns out I was right anyway. It's Yachiru. And I want to say I called it, but frankly everybody called it, that she was going to be his Zanpakuto spirit in the end. And she's just sort of sitting there, and she's like, what are you doing, Ken-chan? And he's like, Yachiru. And she says, you're just getting started, come on, get back up. And she tries to lift him up by his hand, and Kenpachi says, where the hell have you been? And Yachiru says, if you would just use me properly, there wouldn't be anyone you wouldn't be able to cut down. And yeah, she's a Zanpakuto spirit. So I guess her real name's Nozarashi. But yeah, she grabs his hand and like there's a light coming off it and she's giving him power. And he says, what did you just do with this power? And she says, see, you can be so clueless sometimes, Ken-chan. That power is what everyone's calling Bankai. So Kenpachi is about to go Bankai. I won't lie, when I first read this, I wasn't excited. I just sort of sat back and I was like, that is bullshit. How the hell has Kenpachi got Bankai out of nowhere when he's only just got Shikai? But I've given it some thought, and it actually does make sense. Everyone knows that in order to attain Bankai, you must forcibly submit your Zanpakuto spirit to materialise into the real world. However, Zaraki's Zanpakuto spirit has always been materialised in the real world. So, basically, over all these years, they have been forming a tight bond, unlike any other Shinigami in Zanpakuto. Ironically, it would appear that Kenpachi is the closest to his Zanpakuto out of every Shinigami, because he and Yachiru have just been together for as long as she's been around, which I suppose is as long as Kenpachi's been around, but I don't know. Either way, yeah, to me it actually does make sense, and I kind of hope I hope she mentions this next week just to, cement that fact. But yeah, they've been around forever. They've fought alongside each other. He's always treated her like his family, and they've defended each other. So, unknown to him, he has like the best relationship with his Zanpakuto possible. So it makes sense that she could be like, "Yep, there's your Bankai, because you are already this powerful with me anyway." And we already know that it looks like Zanpakuto spirits can basically bestow Bankai on you whenever they like. Because Ichibei, Zabimaru was withholding most of his Bankai, and he basically just gave it back to Renji, apparently. So, yeah, I think it does make sense that Zaraki can get Bankai now, because Yachiru can just be like, look, we've been together for so long, we've got such a good bond, here you go, you need this, off you go. What his Bankai will be, I don't know. I don't know if it's just going to be a bigger blade or something like that. It'll be interesting. Yeah, actually wouldn't surprise me if Kubo went the route of Ichigo and like made his Bankai smaller than his Shikai. I could actually kind of see that if Kenpachi gets like a sleek blade and he just kind of goes ham. I could see that happening. That would be interesting. But but at the same time he could get some enormous freaking blade and just one-shot Gerard. I don't think Gerard will be one-shot. I'd be surprised if Kenpachi actually beat Gerard, because when the hell did Kenpachi... Because I can buy him getting his Bankai, but I can't buy him being able to use it very well, because this is the first time he's ever used Bankai. Because he didn't even know he had it. So like even Rukia against Asnot, I could buy that she'd maybe used it in training because she knew she had one. She summoned it knowingly. Whereas this time, Kenpachi has literally just gone, what? I've got Bankai? So, yeah. It'll be very interesting to see how this goes, how he does. I'll give the chapter I'm erring between 3.5 and 4. I'll probably give it a 4 because it was better than last week's, because the character interactions were quite good again this time, and we did have the Bankai reveal, Yachiru finally coming back after she disappeared after the Grammy fight. Yeah, I'll probably give it a 4 out of 5. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you thought of this week's chapter. How hyped are you for Zaraki's Bankai, and what do you think it's going to be? Do let me know in the comments below. I would appreciate it. Whoa, just moved my phone. I would appreciate it. But until next time, guys, please subscribe to my videos. I'd super appreciate the support. And until next time, catch you later.